Welcome back to Wages and Employment at Wilfrid Laurier University. Today we're going to look at programs designed to support workers after the onset of a disability. For reference, you should pair this video with readings in Chapter 3 of your textbook. In this section, we're concerned with programs that support someone when they have been injured or become ill. There are also programs out there to support people whose disabilities have always limited their labor market activity. But here, what we have in mind are people who were well attached to the labor market, and then later, something about their physical or mental health changes that restricts their ability to work for pay. Of course, in many cases, a person doesn't really have any discretion over how much they work when injured. We aren't concerned with their incentives associated with income support programs. So keep in mind our discussion in this chapter does not apply to everyone who receives support. But there are some cases where a person has some discretion, and we would be concerned with the financial incentives. They might not be able to work as much as before, but could work reduced hours, for example. They might be able to return to modified duties at work, or they might even be able to take on new jobs that their disability does not prevent them from doing. It's these cases that we have in mind when we think about the design of these programs. Before thinking about programs, we should recognize how disability itself matters in our models. The first point is that a disability might reduce how much a person can work, constraining their hours. A person without a disability and flexibility in hours worked might choose H0 hours in this diagram, with utility U0. A severe injury or full disability might prevent someone from working at all, here at HF, with utility UF, and they are clearly worse off. But there are also partial disabilities that might restrict work to HP hours or less, in which case the highest utility the person can obtain is UP. But a disability might also change your preferences over consumption and leisure, perhaps making work so much less pleasant. If that happens, the shape of the indifference curves would change, perhaps becoming steeper as people shift preferences towards leisure time. What is then an optimal bundle of consumption and leisure will change whether or not there is an income support program. We might also be concerned that a disability could affect the wage offers found in the labor market. For example, a person might have to accept jobs at a lower wage rate. That is going to show up here as flatter potential income constraint. And like any other wage change, will have both income and substitution effects. There can also be medical expenses associated with the disability that even in Canada aren't fully covered. And we would capture that as a reduction in non-labor income by the amount M. That would have pure income effects, reducing a person's leisure. Overall, we have to look at individual cases to see how the income and substitution effects work out. But with these various effects in mind, it's easy to see that the framework for choices is quite different with the onset of a disability. The main program we think of to ensure against income losses that come with the onset of a disability is workers' compensation. This is a program that each province runs, so it differs slightly across Canada. In Ontario, we have the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board that offers benefits when a person is missing work because of a work-related injury or illness. This doesn't cover a disability that results from an accident on your own time, only something that happens at work. What they offer is to replace 85% of lost take-home pay. So this is really the net work H1 hours with L1 hours of leisure time. So the usual take-home pay is the earnings W1, H1. If they were disabled and unable to work, workers' compensation would offer to replace 85% of their income, making point B here their budget constraint. Arguably, if their preferences and activities away from work aren't at all altered by their disability, we could have reason to think of this person as better off with the income support than they were when they were working. We might even argue the person could be offered a lower replacement rate and still be as well off as before their injury occurred. But we'd have to limit ourselves to cases where there is absolutely no pain or suffering to consider. So the argument here is extremely limited. In our next video, we are going to look at the need for childcare and how income support can play a role there. See you then.